Feeling your arms dangle, hang with gravity. Feel gravity work through the length of your body and accumulate at the feet. And with each out breath, allow that process more freedom. So each time you exhale, it's another opportunity to release more. See if you can actually palpably feel more weight enter the feet or more pressure on the bottoms of the feet each time you exhale. And if you feel a little bit more pressure, that means you've allowed more release, allow gravity to work that much more freely. Hang out. So that's another useful methodology to work on releasing tensions, being a better and better empty vessel, to be more open, allowing thinking to occur. Is, can you feel that accumulated weight at the bottoms of the feet actually increase? And you can feel that increase with every out breath if you focus on that process. Each time you exhale, see if you can allow more pressure on the bottoms of the feet, allowing gravity to work more completely freely. Now, again, we have to also watch out if we're allowing things to drop more, letting the weight fall directly to the feet. That will tend to naturally pull us down. So we have to counter that with this upward intention and or a verticalizing of the bones, bone on top of bone, stacking the bones. Stacking the bones to counter a tendency to be pulled down by that process. More and more weight accumulates to the bottoms of the feet, but you want to directly counter that with a upright brightness, like fingers. The bones are like my fingers, very open and upright. And at the same time, allowing more weight to enter the bottoms of the feet. Feel the weight of the arms gather at the fingertips. If you're not fighting gravity, if you're not holding in, holding up, if you're a transparent vessel for gravity, just like all the weight of your body will settle into the feet. Individual parts, same thing happens. That's weight underside, right? Arms out here, all the weight will settle, weight underside, if I'm not fighting and resisting gravity. Of course, that's happening unconsciously. People are doing that unconsciously. If it's really open, empty vessel for gravity to work, specifically you're talking about gravity right now. Also, when we say empty vessel, we're talking about energy flow. It'll settle to the bottom point. Right now, the bottom points of the arms would be the very, very, very tips of the fingers. So in fact, I'd like you to actually imagine and feel that you can be aware of the actual pinpoint, sharp pinpoint center of each fingertip. And that's where your weight of each arm will settle to. If you're not preventing that process, if you're not resisting that process, if you're open, released, natural, all the accumulated weight of the arms will settle to the exact pinpoint center of each pad at the end of the fingertip. And especially on the out breath. See if you can allow more to settle to the fingertips, to the exact center point of the fingertips with each out breath. On each out breath. Just work with that for a couple moments. You okay with that? Let me know if you have any comments or questions. So there may be the consequential feeling of being very full, nice and warm, fuzzy feeling. And that only increases or becomes generated even more so with a yin-yang pairing of that uprightness with that sinking allowing. So again, this yin-yang combination, yin-yang pairing allows both to increase. So as I allow that weight to fall, settle through, I begin to feel more full and more rounded. But I have to continually watch for any of this. It doesn't happen this much, it's big, of course. But it may happen, we start to be able to catch smaller and smaller tendencies, even just energetically, just a nuance. It might not even be virtually no movement physically. It could be an energetic collapsation, and we start to catch that, notice that. And so when I correct that intentionally, it increases the positive sensations and effects. Of course, if I go more the other way, go more the yang way, the uprightness, the verticalness, the aligned bones, and that upness, if that becomes primary, then it becomes a little floaty, unrooted. So when they're continually adjusted, so they're harmonized, the yin and yang pairing is they're opposite, they're polarized in a sense, but they're also harmonized. It becomes a more and more powerful sensation and generates more and more chi. So this is what generates the chi in Tai Chi. There's many different kinds of chi. The chi generated or can potentially be generated in Tai Chi. The engine of that, of generating that, the generator of the chi is the yin-yang pairings, the polarity, fluxing. Now, I think of it as it's like static electricity is created by friction. Like if you rub a sweater and roll a sweater around, that friction creates that electricity. So much so that it becomes palpable. You can get shocked by it, and you can visibly see the sparks. It just generates electricity. It generates electromagnetism. For me, it's the same process. We can literally generate that electricity, that bioelectricity. Generate the chi by that friction, by the polarity, the yin-yang polarities, the yin-yang fluxing. So one aspect of this yin-yang pairing is the uprightness, verticalness, arisingness, and the continual sinking, dropping, falling, the continual falling and sinking and releasing, with the continuous uprightness. That's a direct friction, so to speak. And that's literally a generator of chi, a builder of chi, the machine that generates chi. And gently rock out. Just give yourself a little break mentally and or physically. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. You will have to unmute yourself if you do.
Yeah, so you can hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So is there a kind of breathing that goes well with that?
Okay. Of course, first and foremost is to, and most basic is to continually come back to check the abdomen and check the breathing, first and foremost. So continually releasing the abdomen. And if you're releasing the abdomen, that goes a long ways to having a better, more complete breathing, more natural breathing. And that we may need the extra step of consciously doing a few breaths where we allow the belly to expand, allow the belly to sink back in. So those are the most basic levels. Release the abdomen, make sure the abdomen is free and released to move with the breath. So just doing that sets everything up. So in fact, that's all you would need to do. And release the abdomen and allow that abdominal breathing to be occurring fully and naturally. Now, there may be another way or a slightly adjusted way of breathing that you might find increases certain things, and you can work with that consciously. But for a long time and generally overall, it's just that released open breathing. So, I mean, technically, for example, turtle breathing, that's a generator of chi as well. And you could bring that into this, but I would suggest not most of the time, not for a long time, because there's so much that can be activated and discovered just with natural breathing. But for example, I may choose to bring turtle breathing, which is the more conscious, restricted breathing. That's a chi builder as well, directly builds chi and thinks chi. But generally speaking, we don't want to, that brings up another subcategory, subtopic. Generally speaking, we don't want to mix things. Not necessarily always, but and certainly if something is new, we want to stay with that simple mechanics that created that. So there are technical things and other techniques I can do to also increase the chi or charge the chi, but not necessarily something I want to necessarily bring into it, because that's maybe mixing too many things. But again, we have more options and more choices with more experience. We can't start to do that. We're very conscious about it. Okay, so I talked about yin yang pairing, and the yin yang pairing and the yin yang action creates chi. And that's a big, huge part of Tai Chi. But we can go one step further. It's further back to go further forward. And this is definitely much more subtle, and it's something that we can touch upon, and then you can work on more when you're ready to work on this more. Now, there's something beyond yin yang, and that's going through the origin of the universe and the ultimate ground zero of the universe, ultimate background of the universe. So our standing, there's a couple terms for standing. Zhuang is translated means basically standing post, standing tall and still like a post. So that describes our shape and the physicality of our standing. Zhuang. There's another term, Wuji, and that's talking about the mind and the ultimate state that this practice can incubate. Wuji means absolute void, emptiness. It's before there was yin and yang. So in the Tai Chi or Taoist cosmology, yin and yang came out of the ultimate void. Yin yang then allowed things to happen, things to be and things to happen because of the interaction of yin and yang. But before that, or the origin of yin yang, or the what birth yin yang is something beyond yin yang. Emptiness, void, non-duality, before any duality. Okay, so settling back into Zhangzhuang, standing pose. Taking a moment to do that as well as you can with as much awareness. Breathing in, breathing out is yin and yang. Everything is yin and yang. Up, down, yin and yang. Tight, relaxing and yang. We're going to dissolve all those concepts. If it's helpful to close your eyes, feel free to do that. Allowing yourself to forget about something called yin and yang. Forgetting about positive, negative, up, down. Before there was polarities. Behind all the polarities, or before any polarities, there was the primordial void. Imagine and feel there is no difference between front and back. Front and back of the body, front of the body, behind the body, no difference. Imagine and feel there's no difference between left and right. Zero difference. There is no left and right. The dissolving away of front and back. The disappearing of the difference between left and right. And the dissolving of any difference between up and down. There's no up and down. There's no down and up. There's no front and back. There's no left and right. There's no up and down. There's no in-breath and no out-breath. There's no past. There's no future. There's not even a present. There is no such thing, past, present, or future. There's no in-breath, there's no out-breath. There is no what is, what was, what will be. Those are all just separate things, illusions, separations out of the void. Primordial void. There's no separate things, including no separate thing called past, no separate thing called future. There isn't even a thing that is present. Certainly no front, back, up, down. There's no sides. There's no ahead, there's no back. There's no ahead and there's no back in time either, because there is no time. There isn't even a thing, an object, that's present. There's no is and is not. There is no was and will be. Let your mind softly, like a feather drifting down, become a thing to settle in your center. So gently come back to the reality. It's like a soft, downy feather. And gently. And see if there's any comments with that experience. Obviously, a very subtle, abstract approach, but that becomes something that we can open our mind and our experience to. And that's what's behind yin and yang.
Yeah, I mean, what um, I think what comes to my attention and thinking about it is like the boundaries get softer or less, like just not perceptible in certain ways, and just how um settled the sense of mind becomes. So it felt like, you know, when you cued us to like bring your mind like a feather to the belly to have activity, even that come from there felt like a thing.
Mhm.
You know, and I say this as someone, my mind's going all the time pretty much, so it's quite interesting to feel the initiation of that.
Nice.
Yeah. But I admit for myself, my cognitive mind is pretty busy about, well, how exactly does chi come from the yin and yang thing, but I'm also okay to just let that not be answered.
Yeah, so it just, you file that away. That's like one
Yeah.
of the files in the back room, or one of the seeds that are planted, because
Yeah.
you will, it's a matter of time before that's experienced,
Okay.
before that's experienced.
Yeah.
So with that as kind of an inspiration, I mean, that's purity. And to whatever degree we're able to tap into that direction of purity and emptiness and allness, there's no separation, it's allness. And to whatever degree we're able to kind of open to that, we'll kind of stay with that sense of very open, very subtle, but becoming at the same time more physical. So this is definitely going to be more physical, but that was a good start for this next more physical exercise, because for most people in the beginning, this is going to be very, very subtle, very energetic. But now, because like, as you mentioned, actually, that feather, just the thought of a thought, the awareness of a thought, coming back to a sense of self, just the awareness of thought, that became a blaring obvious thing. Okay. So our sensitivities have been, refined, polished. So we can do this exercise more effectively and more energetically. So standing posture, Zhuang, or standing pose, being as empty as you can, clear as you can for a moment. Mind sticking to nothing, being aware of your body, releasing parts if you can, but not sticking to anything. So that's one of the positive residues or benefits of doing something like Wuji practice, consciously working with Wuji, emptiness, primordial void. Is what some of the remnants is that your mind becomes less sticky. We get less stuck on things. Less stuck on good, less stuck on bad, less quick judgments of what's good, what's bad. Simply not getting stuck on any particular thing, activity, circumstance, situation. So one of the residues or benefits, mind becomes less sticky mind, more free, more open, more empty. So as we stand here, hanging out, relaxed, open, empty, we do something called whole body pore breathing. Pore breathing, as in the pores on your skin. So hang out, settle your mind and breath, the bowl of the hips to start with. Then imagine and feel when you breathe in, you're actually breathing in from the environment and breathing in through all the pores in your body. So as you tune into your skin, into your body, magnify like your fantastic voyage. I don't know if you remember that old movie. You shrunk down to a microscopic level. So pore on your skin is like this big. And of course, you got millions of the pores all over your body. You breathe in, you're breathing in, not through your nose now. You breathe in through all those pores. Your body is empty, and so the body becomes filled with the breath, the energy from the environment. Breathing in the energy, the chi from the environment in through your pores. And your body is one complete empty bag or balloon. It's filled from all those directions, all those pores breathing in. And you breathe out, you send the out breath out through those pores back into the environment. In from all directions. The skin is very, very porous. In fact, those pores have become huge in your awareness. You breathe in, you draw that breath energy, the chi from the environment directly into the body. The body is empty, like an empty bag, all filled. And breathe out, breathe directly out through the pores, sending the used up chi, used up breath back into the environment. You can even imagine it leaving a steam out through pores, like steam out through the spout of a kettle. It's through all your pores, every direction, out through the skin. Breathing in, you're drawing the chi and the breath from the entire environment, large space around you, and from all directions, including from behind you, even through the soles of the feet, and even through the pores of the scalp. And you breathe out, you send it out through all those pores. And then take that process into a different shape, the Buddha belly shape. Again, everything is open, almost like you don't have anything substantial in your body. It's empty, empty bag or empty balloon. But porous so that you can draw the breath energy in easily, filling that emptiness, and then breathe out just as easily through all the pores. Everything inside the body, including the surface of the body, is completely open. So there's an easy, effortless transfer of breath into and through the body. In through the pores, out through the pores, including the scalp, including backs of the knees, backs of the legs, bottoms of the feet, between the toes. And you can bring the arms up higher if you want. See if you can keep that same openness physically and energetically. Nothing substantial, nothing, no hard muscles, no tight muscles. Everything is open and empty. And letting the hands slowly drift down. Again, very light. There's nothing substantial inside the body. And when you're ready to move into the commencement move, breathing in, all that in-breath coming in through the pores inflates the body, causing the commencement movement. Breathing out, imagine all that leaving out through all the pores in the body. And that's why the arms drift down a little bit. So breathing in through all the pores. So the chi, breath energy comes in directly 90 degrees into the body. From all directions, 90 degrees directly into the body. And breathing out, exits the same way. So nothing substantial in the body, empty bag that gets filled and emptied. And now even the skin itself becomes less substantial, becomes just a mental boundary, barely even physical, like the slightest of membranes. Just a hint of a membrane that used to be called the skin. And the breath movement, the energy movement, the mind movement moves just as freely in as out. Nothing inside, totally insubstantial, and the boundary itself becomes less and less. And letting the arms settle in that rounded position again. And let the hands drift down. Stay open, empty, pores open. Resting the hands at the center, weight through the feet. Good. Thank you very much, everyone.